Hey, how you doing? It is Tom Breeze here from Viewability, and in this video I actually get interviewed by Elizabeth Halford. Now, just to give you a bit of context, recently I interviewed Elizabeth Halford in the office, and when she came down we talked to her for over 2 hours about her creative process to generating ideas for different products, different brands, different companies. And I've got to say, it's one of the best interviews I've done for me personally, because I loved gaining her insight into how she actually does this stuff, how she creates these ideas and creative thoughts. And so it was amazing. But she also liked what I did as well, which is very flattering. And so we did another interview where she actually asked me to come to her studio this time and asked me about driving ROI with YouTube advertising. So it's almost like she comes from a very creative world. I come from more of a scientific world, but have a creative process to the business as well. But she was kind of like the master of creative ideas, etc. And so she wanted to know how to run YouTube advertising for a profit. And so this interview that you're about to watch, I think will be really useful for you to see this, but also make sure you go and check out the Elizabeth Halford interview I did on our channel, because I think you'll find that really powerful as well, when you have 2 hours, that is. It's broken up into parts, so it should be a little bit easier. But yeah, have a watch of this video. I'll give you a bit of a background story to the agency as well, and I think you'll find it very, very useful.
I'm Elizabeth Halford, and I'm a producer here at Global Fire. And today we're hanging out with Tom Breeze from Viewability, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. Tell us what you do, Tom.
So we run Viewability, or I run Viewability I should say, and it's a YouTube ads agency, and basically we create video ads for clients and run them on YouTube and make sure we get in front of the perfect type of customer and turn those views into money, basically.
And how do you do that?
So we start off by really looking at like what the client wants to do in terms of what products they might want to sell, and start there, and then also think about the audience. So we think about, okay, so who really would be very interested in what this product's all about? And we know that with YouTube ads, we can get in front of people in very many different times of the day, different kind of like types of targeting is available to us. So we're really looking at like the individual's moment they're in and say, right, in their real life experience, in that moment, what is going on for them? And we try and tap into that as much as possible. So it's a case of like, once we understand the real life experience, we can then start to think about, well, what type of video would we create? And what kind of like script would we put together? In the vast majority of cases, clients hire us really for return on investment. And it's kind of like less about reach and frequency, and it's more about, is that spend on those ads going to turn into profit? So that's kind of like an area that we look at. And then we get into the YouTube ad side of things in terms of like the targeting side of things, and make sure those videos appear in the right places. Make sure that if a customer is looking for what someone has to offer, we make sure we are there with a really good ad, giving a good quality value and making sure it's a good experience, so that we can make sure those people that are viewing the videos want to go and find out more about the particular product or service that our clients will be offering.
So you mentioned return on investment, which we know in marketing is ROI.
Yes.
And everybody wants to know what's the ROI of their video going to be. So it sounds like what you do is an important part of that puzzle, taking a piece of content like what we make,
yes,
and actually driving the ROI, or the return on that investment.
Yes.
So
exactly.
how do you do that?
Good question. Okay, so that's a $1 million question, right? Quite literally. So the way that we look at any client and making sure that the ad spend actually turns into profit is really making sure that when we create the video, we know there's going to be an action at the end of it to begin with. We know we need to make sure that if someone's going to see that video, we have to give them a clear pathway to say, okay, if you want to find out more, here's where you'll click next. And on YouTube, there's many different ways you can get someone to click from the video back to the website, whether it be on mobile, whether it be on like desktop devices, on a tablet, whatever it might be. And what we're doing is we're making sure we start the story really with somebody. So if we know what their pain points are, or what their problems might be, or what they're really wanting, we try and tap into that as best as possible. And we say, okay, specifically, what is it you want? And make a video dedicated to that moment that someone's in. When we create that video then, and then we give them good advice, good content, we'll incentivize them to then say, okay, click here, go back to the website. And the whole process of that, in order to get in front of the right customer, is to make sure that, like, when you use AdWords, which is actually part of the YouTube setup, when you're actually promoting those ads, there's many different targeting options. And it's about identifying which ones are going to get in front of the right customers. So there's obvious places where you might start to say, okay, well, if there's very relevant videos on YouTube already about what people are looking for and your product or service taps into that, then we want to be advertising there. That just makes sense. So the experience might be for somebody on their mobile, they might be in store looking at, let's say, looking to buy some new marathon shoes, for example, because I know I ran the marathon back in April, and you might be in store looking at the shoes they have there. But then most of the time people get their phone out and be like, okay, is this the right shoe for me? Or
Did they do that?
Loads of people do that all the time.
People shop with their mobiles?
Yeah, I do it all the time as well. Yeah, I'll go into the store and see, okay, what have you got? And I'll go online and think, okay, it's cheaper on Amazon. I'll go there instead. There'll be things like that that most people do.
Oh, wow.
But there's so many different scenarios to that. So like when my second child was on his way, then just prior to him being born, we realised, because we had a very young his now brother, and we needed a very special type of buggy, one that would have two kids that could easily be put into the same buggy. And that wasn't easy to find. And so going to YouTube immediately to look at different buggies and do reviews of different buggies was like our immediate starting place. Now, the stimulus for me was like, we've got another baby on the way. I need to go and find out where to get the best buggy. That's what like triggered me to go start searching for this. And YouTube was a natural place because for me, getting a buggy and getting into a car is like you need a degree in order to be able to do that. So for me, it's like I was really kind of like
military operation.
Yeah, exactly. And a number of times I've had like one kid in the car, and then also like, trying to collapse the buggy. I was like, I don't want to do that when the two kids are there because I don't know how to handle that.
Right.
So I was very keen on going to YouTube, looking at like other parents. Typically mums would be like, okay, here's how you collapse the thing, and here's how you get into the car. And if it looks easy, I'm like, great, I want to buy that one. But it wasn't like I was going to go into the store and see the one I wanted because it was quite specialist. And likewise, if there's a store manager there who can, or a salesperson who can fold it up because that's what they do all day, doesn't mean that I can do it. So it's a very different experience. And so for me, seeing other real people use the thing that I wanted to buy and seeing how easy it was to use, it's almost like I'm doing my window shopping and seeing everything I need about that product there and then in that video. And so it just made sense for me to go to somewhere like YouTube and look those products up.
So if you are looking for a product like a buggy, you are the user and you go to YouTube and you go, you know, I want to see real people using this.
Yes.
How would an advertiser capitalize on that moment that person's having and seed something like a pre-roll at the beginning of that video to successfully advertise to that person who might be looking to buy in store or online? What's the micro moment there?
So the micro moment might be, so my one in particular, when I was thinking, I was like, I just found out that, well, not just found out, but recently I found out that we were having a second child. And so I was in a moment where I was like trying to go through the to-do list of what I had to do to get prepared for the child, sort of thing. So if you imagine that I was in that state, in that moment, then the only, like for me, it's very much a case of like I'm trying to get ready. I'm trying to get prepared for this kind of child that's going to come into the world.
And YouTube knows that because you're looking at a double buggy.
Looking at very double, yeah, exactly. So you're looking at double buggy.
It would naturally be a second child. So YouTube knows that you're about to have a second child, or maybe even a set of twins, because you're looking at double buggies. So how could an advertiser capitalize on that piece of intel on who you are to advertise something to you in that moment?
Okay, cool. So how we would do it is we really try and look at, say, okay, well, although we know there's certain videos out there that would be directly relevant to that audience. Say, for example, we know that like I would have gone to YouTube and typed in something like either straight away the product, because I might have Googled it prior, found out exactly what product it is, and then I'm just looking to do a review. And so many people search things like this type of model of product versus or review as the end of it. Yeah? Okay, cool. So loads of people do that all the time. And they type in versus or type in review because they want to see people do it. And there's millions of videos about lots of products like that. Now, you can actually select the individual videos that you want to advertise on. So you can say, right, if someone's looking up the duo buggy from Phil and Ted, which is the one that we've got, if someone's looking that content up because they're looking to do the reviews, then Phil and Ted and their competitors probably should be advertising to those people. So just before they press play on that video, and just before it actually begins, the pre-roll ad begins. And it's at that point where you think, right, as the advertiser, you've got it in front of them at the right time, and you're there. But then it's a case of like, what are you going to say? because most people just annoy people and they just say, here's how good our product is.
Yeah, and you just can't wait for that little skip ad button to
You're
pop up.
scrolling down to the bottom right hand corner and like pressing it 20 times before it's available. So as an advertiser, you've got there, which is like 9 times out of 10 brands aren't there anyway, so you've done a really good job of getting there and being there. But then you've really got to be useful. So instead of just saying, here's our great products, go and check it out, that might work to a certain extent, but the much better way is what we call educate. So it's still an ad, and you've still got the ad principles in place, and you know that, but you don't want the viewer to know deep down it's an ad.
Yeah.
So you don't want to start off with a real heavy sales pitch or anything like that. So you might just kind of get to them in the moment they're in and say, hey, look, if you're doing your reviews of different buggies and you've got 2 kids and you've got 1 on the way or something like that, and you're thinking, right, I need a very specialist buggy, let me show you exactly what's on the market right now and what might be right for you. Now, if I saw that in the first 5 seconds, I'd be like, okay, I'm in. I'm listening to, even though I know it's an ad, I know I'm getting good value. And then they might review certain products. It depends on what you've got to offer, of course. You don't necessarily promote your competitors. But you might just show an array of your different products because Phil and Ted have got hundreds of buggies that they could show you. And so they can really give you good advice prior to kind of you watching the video that you're about to watch. And I mean, the vast majority of the time, we create ads that are much better than the video they're going to watch anyway.
Yeah.
And so on YouTube, it's normally very amateur hour type thing. If you can create a video that's still very high quality, but comes from a position of you actually wanting to provide value to the viewer, and then say, hey, look, if you want to find out more, we've got a whole brochure, or we've got a whole video series of stuff that you can go and check out. Plus, also, it gives you the tips in those early days of like what else you might need for a kid. I don't know, you can think about what you might have for someone to carry on that relationship of actually trying to be very helpful and very valuable. If the ad has that intent from the start, you get a much better reaction from YouTube. And we're all about return on investment. So we like the idea of getting someone to go back to the website and making a purchase as soon as possible. And we've tested so many different things, and we've done the whole quite quickly promote the product very to the perfect moment. And it works, but it's a much better, you can do a much better job if you provide value and you don't become the salesperson, because people's defenses go up. And it's much better to just be helpful, be useful. So the mantra we have is like, be there and be useful. And if you can get those 2 things in place, then you can do really well from YouTube.
So tell me what you at Viewability consider to be a return. And are you willing to talk to us about your unique pricing structure, like the way that you actually interact with clients when it comes to them paying for your services?
Yeah, of course. So when we look at return on investment, we look to really make sure that it's kind of like if you put $1 into ad spend, you get more than $1 back. And you can repeat that process and scale that process up. Now, if it was like $1 in or £1 in and got £1 and 1 pence back, you're kind of breaking even. Or sometimes that's still fine to do as well, because there's all the benefits of advertising on YouTube, like being there for your customer when they were looking for you, the brand recognition, the fact that there will be further sales, etc. Sometimes clients will look at us and say, great, if you can just break even on this, that's great, because further on down the line, they're going to continue buying from us. So there's that in place, but you can literally track everything. So unlike TV, where you hope that you kind of like get some return and you kind of like attribute reach and frequency to maybe more sales in the stores, with YouTube you get the click back to the website, and you can track everything that's going on. So you can be very quick about what to turn off in terms of your advertising spend, what to turn up, and you can make it work but very profitably if you stick at it, if that makes sense. Like week 1 is not going to be a profitable week probably. Yeah, exactly. But a month in, you should be able to like see where you're getting really good results, and then you can really spend the money in those places. So everything's trackable. You can see exactly what's happening, how people are engaging and viewing your video, and the retention of those views. You literally get all the data you would need to make really informed decisions about the best way to. And a lot of people use YouTube, a lot of like TV advertising companies will use YouTube as that, almost like that incubator to say, we'll try 5 or 6 different intros to a video, see which one works best with an online audience where it's cheap, and then take that to like, with that proof, take that to TV, because we know that tends to resonate best with the audience we want to show it to.
That's interesting. We have a big corporate client at the moment who's doing that with black and white versus color.
Okay, yeah.
So we're running 2 different ads. Or they are, to see which one kind of has the best retention rate.
Perfect. The thing about like black and white and color is great, because it's a very clean test sort of thing. It's like one thing changes and you can test the 2 things. If it's like, should I use this intro or use that intro, sometimes like the delivery of that intro was better than the other one. So it's like sometimes a bit more of a messy test, so to speak. So black and white and colour is a really nice test to do. We've done that, in fact, and we found that...
Which one won?
We found that colour is much better for memory retention, because remarketing works better that way. And conversion was pretty equal for that type of campaign that we ran, sort of thing.
Equal to black and white and colour?
From the first video, if we just had that first video to getting the action taken, it was pretty equal. We didn't get much difference. But what we found is that when we carried on advertising to the people that first saw that first video, the memory was better of the colour video, and we got better conversion the second time round for that follow-up.
That's interesting. So when we first met, I told you how I love 30-second videos. And you said, actually, you want to make your videos 45 seconds. Can you explain to us why?
Okay, yeah, of course. So, and the length of video now that we kind of like, I mean, we're testing all the stuff all the time. So we've got videos that are like sometimes 10 minutes in length as a pre-roll ad, and it still works really well.
Really? People watch it all the way?
It depends on what the return on investment is, and it depends on what the targeting is. So say, for example, you had a product that is a very intricate product, and you need a lot of time to explain exactly what it does. You don't want to run like a 10-second ad, because you're not going to, unless there's one feature that you really want to show people to get click back to the website, fine. But if you, sometimes what we do is spend a little bit more time with people who are pretty serious about what's going on, and if you have like a 10-minute video, you can do a proper sales pitch for what you've got. And so sometimes a longer video can be better. But yeah, what we found is like when we first started with YouTube ads, we know that the platform works in such a way where you only pay on YouTube for an engaged viewer or someone who clicks back to your website, which really means that if they click back to your website, you pay. If they watch more than 30 seconds of your video, you'll pay. But if they watch like 29 seconds of your pre-roll ad and then think, oh, skip ad, you don't pay a thing. So you've got all the brand awareness that goes on with it as well. That's completely free, which is great. But you only pay for an engaged viewer. And the really exciting thing about that is that kind of like you can obviously run your ads to audiences and test things out pretty quick and see what's working. So when we looked at creating video ads, finishing your video at 30 seconds was sometimes not the best thing to do, because whilst you get all that, like if someone gets to the end of your video, you also pay as well. So you have an opportunity to go a little bit beyond that. And if someone watches like just 20 seconds of your video, for example, and gets to the end of it, and then it starts off the next video they're about to watch, you'd still end up paying for that. So sometimes it's better off to like, almost like have a outro to the video that's like a slightly slower pace and still has the call to action that you want them to take still present on the video. So
are you able to glean insights from people who watch past a certain point and start to build a campaign that's targeted just to that audience? Is having a longer video beneficial in that you can start kind of building insights into that person? And further on from that, after you answer that question, I'm putting you on the spot. How can you discuss with us data versus insights? How numbers aren't always insights into things. Yeah,
of course. So the first one was about like viewers watching the videos and making sure that we can treat them in different ways, and we call it like if this then that advertising. So there'll be global, what I mean by that is like if there's, let's say for example your video's got 100,000 views from advertising, then you'll be able to see what happens with those 100,000 people. And you'll be able to also kind of segment that down by gender and by age, but you won't be able to do it by the individual user. So it's more kind of like aggregated data that you can have a look at. That said, the people that do watch past 30 seconds and become an official viewer, you can then, if those people are, you can actually tag those people and say, right, we want to advertise those people again. And that's kind of remarketing. Like when you get followed around the internet with different ads, that's basically remarketing. But it normally happens when someone visited a website, they've kind of like triggered a pixel, it's called, and then it means that as an advertiser, we can get back in front of that audience that have been to our website.
Is that what happens when you're online shopping and you go to Facebook and it's there again?
Oh, it's there everywhere, yeah. Or if you go
how
to,
did you know?
yeah, exactly, yeah. And some companies are really good at it. Yeah, so some companies are really good at, like British Airways have got really good at it. So I was looking at flights from London to San Francisco, and I decided to not go with British Airways, but for the next week I was followed around with like, hey, if you're traveling from London to San Francisco, we'll do this deal. And it's like, oh, so that's funny enough. So that's kind of remarketing, but you can do that off your YouTube ads as well. So, or you can do it off your YouTube videos as well. So even if you get organic reach and your video is viral, you can follow those people up with ads as well. So you say, right, those people that have watched my video, maybe I don't want to show that video again to them, because you don't want to bombard people with the same ad over and over again. Like we all get frustrated with the Christmas ads that are already out right now, and it's like we've got a month to go, however long it is till Christmas. And that's the thing, is like, I think a lot of us see these different ads over and over and over again, and it's a bit of like that bombardment, whereas you can do a much better job. So you can say, if they watched this video and they decided to not go any further, or they decided to go to the website, we can then say, okay, well, based on their behavior, we can choose to advertise those people again in a slightly different way. So if you watched a 10-minute like ad, if you had that 10-minute ad, then you don't want to show another 10-minute ad to people, because that's not going to be of necessarily that much interest. You might dig straight down into like a new message. So let's take it back to the kind of like the idea of going to buy a buggy, for example. If I watched a video of like 10 minutes about this particular buggy, someone doing a review of a buggy, and I was kind of like really engaged with it, looking at it, but didn't decide to go back to the website, maybe they kind of like pushed on a wrong button for me. Maybe there was something that they kind of like said, oh, and it can also do this, which didn't interest me. I might have said, oh, skip ad or something like that. But then they could follow me up with a different ad to say, let me show you also what's great about this product. And they can go into more detail then at that point. So the remarketing strategy you can put in place can be really effective on that front.
So we've been talking about watching things that are related to what you're searching for. So you're searching for videos of double buggies.
Yes.
You know, then the obvious thing to do, I guess, is to then seed an ad in front of that is to do with that subject.
Yes.
So how do you take something that people are looking for and show them something they don't even know that they're looking for using Micromoments?
Okay, cool. So there's two
Gonna
scenarios.
put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's
Go.
cool. There's two scenarios that I think can work really well. One, which is our Peppa Pig story that I'll talk about. So I have two very young children, and when my little boy Milo wakes up in the morning and it's like ridiculous hour, like 4:45 in the morning sort of thing, that's not a good time for me.
Thanks.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Milo. So he runs through to our room and typically just like jumps on the bed and wants to start the day. And I'm not ready just yet. I just need 5 minutes just to wake up. And so the thing I normally do is reach to the right hand side where my phone is by my bedside cabinet, grab it, go to YouTube and type in Peppa Pig.
Right.
And it just gives me 5 minutes. And I kind of scroll to a Peppa Pig. I find one that's going to last for more than 5 minutes, press play, and then you can do the thing on your phone where you triple click it so it can't be kind of like stopped. And then you pass it to Milo, and Milo's going to be there for like 5 minutes just chilled, and I can just like slowly get round to kind of getting up for the day.
I'm impressed you can do that in only 5 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. I exaggerate. Maybe it's 15 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yeah. What normally happens though is that I'm so tired in the morning to get my phone. So going to Peppa Pig, like typing in, is difficult at 4:45 in the morning. And so as soon as I press play, it kind of goes the spirally wheel for like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 seconds. But it's enough time for me to then triple click, which locks the phone, and to unlock the phone is a bit of a hassle as well. So I lock it, and then normally what happens is a pre-roll ad will begin. And the pre-roll ads that we get are ridiculous at that time. It could be anything. The one that really frustrates me is it's a big corporate brand. I've seen it a lot recently, which is like this. It starts off with this like half-naked lady in bed. And
that's like, what you're looking for before Peppa Pig.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly what I want to see. Exactly what I want to show Milo as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so yeah. So it's like this half-naked lady.
You haven't handed it to him by this point.
Yeah, I'm still holding it. I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, so the whole product is like the idea that you can use this special detergent, and it means you don't have to wash your sheets quite so often. Which I don't even like the idea of anyway.
Right.
But it smells good. So like this lady in bed, it looks like it's like almost midday. She's had like a massive lie-in, and for me it's a completely different setting. It's like my morning is 4:45 a.m. and it's not a good time for me. So that's where the ad might go to the right sort of person, maybe, because I might be making a decision about buying detergent potentially, but at that time of day, I'm not interested in that product whatsoever.
The wrong moment to be showing
wrong
that
moment
to
to show it to me, and the wrong kind of slightly wrong message, really, I suppose, as well. But it's the perfect moment for other people to advertise to me. So anyone that's got products or services that are related to parents, a great time to show it to me. But it has to be in a way that's going to be helpful for me. It has to be kind of like the ad actually has to resonate with me at 4:45 in the morning, which is not easy. So let's say, for example, you were a big brand selling coffee, for example, or you had a certain coffee machine. That would be the perfect time to advertise. But you wouldn't want to be like, hey, look, here's our great coffee machine. It would be like showing me how simple it would be to use that as my morning routine or something. So it's the sort of thing like, oh, okay, Peppa Pigs are going to begin in 20 seconds. And you watch the ad and you're like, actually, that's something I could be quite interested in. And so then it gives you the option to click back to the website and you're like, great, I'm there, and now I can potentially find out more. Maybe I can register my interest because it's still at 4:45 a.m. I'm probably not going to make a purchase.
Right.
But unless they've got some good remarketing, or I can fill in my details for more information, it starts the relationship with that company.
Yeah.
But it just makes it easy, right? And that's kind of like that moment. And another scenario that we've had more recently is like, as an advertiser, you need to predict this for your audience, right? So like, one thing is like when they're searching, when your customers are searching for you, you should be there. But there's another thing of like looking at how you can get in front of the customer when they're not expecting you to be there, right? And so
sounds like black magic.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But we can decipher a little bit. So one of the things that we'll always look at is looking at when the moment or when the stimulus begins. So I was in the market for a buggy, but I was probably in the market for a buggy for a good few months, but I wouldn't have known to go and search for it right there and then. But if someone advertised the right buggy to me prior to that, I would have been interested. Happened again with the London Marathon. One of my mates actually pulled out of the London Marathon, and I did it on a whim, said, yeah, I'll do it. And then my first thing was like marathon training. How do I complete a marathon? And then I was like, oh my God, this is like a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
You can literally learn anything on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But as soon as I typed that into Google or into YouTube, like marathon training plans, that should really trigger off a load of different brands and realize that I'm a perfect candidate for them. So if you're a local...
And that would be the stimulus.
Exactly, yeah. So as soon as I type in marathon training plans, people should be able to predict what's going to happen for my future. So I might not know that I need a certain type of marathon shoe just yet, but Nike should be advertising to me.
And they should stop advertising cake and stuff.
Yeah, precisely, yes.
Months,
yeah, exactly, yeah. You're not going to get me buying any cake at that point. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it could be marathon like shoes, it could be local physios could be advertising to me. It could be even the hotels who are kind of like promoting the night before the marathon. You can go to their hotel and chill out because they're right by the start line, for example.
So brands should be doing this stuff, but are they generally this smart? Or is this where you guys come in?
This is where we come in, yeah. Like very rarely will brands even be there to begin with, even when someone's searching for them. So when...
It sounds to me like brands don't even know they need this, though.
Yes, exactly.
So how do you get them into this conversation? They come to you and say...
So the brands will like typically not realize what can happen. They say, hey, YouTube ads, we should probably be there. That's what they say. And then they look at it purely from a pure branding awareness type campaign. But really, a lot of the stuff you can do on YouTube doesn't have to just be pure brand awareness and hoping that it's going to kind of get your name out there a little bit. We focus on using YouTube ads to turn a profit, basically. So $1 spend in or £1 in, more than £1 back. That's kind of like what we kind of like a big drive for us. And we set up the whole agency in that way to say that we don't charge the monthly fee or anything like that. What we do is we work with clients on a kind of a cost per acquisition model to say, how much would you be prepared to pay for a lead or a new sale?
And what do you consider a lead? Do you define that?
Yeah, we define that and make it sure it's measurable and make sure it's kind of like it's valuable for the customer as well to say, oh my God, if you can get leads in or if you can get customers in for this price, we're happy days. And that's what we work to. So we say, right, we'll fund the ad spend, we'll kind of like run the ads for clients. And then it means that they're in kind of a no risk zone, but it means we can grow together. And there's a big, we look at it like, whilst the nuances are there, like for us, it very much feels like we're working with our customers as opposed to them employing us as an agency to do a job. We're very much like, let's work together, let's work out this YouTube thing together and let's grow together as a result.
Does it begin to inform even their whole underpinning marketing strategy? Do you see that start to expand as they become aware of these possibilities?
Yeah, normally what happens, it starts with like, hey look, we've got this TV ad, can you run it on YouTube? And then the conversation normally turns into, wow, that can happen, okay. What should we do instead? And then it becomes like a whole, right, let's use YouTube as a platform to get in front of your customers, actually give the user a really good customer experience.
So this kind of makes me think of what we were talking about off camera, which was quite often people will make videos and go, now we need to find the audience.
Yes.
So talk to us about starting with your audience and knowing about them and making the content that fits them. Just a backwards way that a lot of brands think.
Yeah, so we normally do it in like a two-phase process. So we'll always work with clients to begin with by starting off with their customers and thinking, right, who tends to buy from you? Who tends to be that audience? And what's their real life experience? And then we think about creative or think about the ads that we would create for that customer. So it's understanding their real life experience, the moment they're in, and thinking about, right, well, let's take some like big moments that your customers are going through, like what's the trigger points for them? Where do they tend to be interested in what your product is? Where do we see a lot of traffic going to already? And let's tap into that right now. we'll start that as phase one and just run the ad, and because all it is about data collection really first time round. It's like understanding what actually is working, what's happening in the marketplace. There's obviously tools out there that can give us some insight into that, but until you actually start running the ads for a new client, it's kind of like there's so many different nuances, there's so many different things that play into that client's like experience. But once you've advertised a little bit and you've got some data in, it's amazing how you can interpret that data and be like, wow, okay, it seems like every video that's content that's kind of related to this type of content seems to work really well for you. And what we predicted of this content just doesn't work well for you at all. But it's great because it means that you're taking the message to the market and you're saying, right, we've had a really good idea of what we think the market might be into, but the data shows this. And so you can take those kind of like understandings and be like, right, now we're going to create more video that taps into the places we are getting really good success in.
And that can begin to inform the decisions about the kind of content you recommend them to start actually creating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of case studies. One that's quite well known in the AdWords space where a client was being promoted and they sell like contact lenses. And they didn't realize, but a lot of their audience are actually people that are just about to go and travel. So because people stock up on contact lenses just before they go traveling, so let's say do a bulk buy, and so if they go on holiday or anything like that, there tends to be a purchase quite soon before that, before the flight, basically. So then, as someone who's advertising for the contact lens company, and you can see those trends through your data, you can then be like, right, our ads now need to be like, flying soon, get your contact lenses.
That's
and
cool.
it can be that is sometimes
that's
that
the
simple.
kind of thing that would make me sit up and take notice of a YouTube ad.
Yeah.
Because I'd go, how did you know?
Precisely, yeah.
You know? It's
But
like
Google know everything about us. They're kind of like, they're scraping our emails, they're doing everything. And not necessarily, yeah, exactly. There's not one person going through it and reading your emails, but the bots and the computer programs and the AI are doing that already. And it allows us as advertisers to tap into that. So you can run like YouTube ads, not just on YouTube, but you can do it to people's Gmail accounts. So you can have like an ad at the top of the page, but based on what emails you're receiving or what you've been looking at recently, I can show an ad to you based on that information.
Wow.
And,
so you talk about data a lot and stuff. Can you tell us about your relationship with data and how you started and your affinity for numbers and
affinity for numbers? Yeah, exactly. Well, my history and my kind of background is a psychological background. So whilst I was at university and doing my master's as well, that's where I studied psychology quite heavily. And I think psychology has got like these two kind of like arguments. One, which is like the art and understanding human behavior and actual kind of what we do, and the other side of like the very scientific process. But psychology has like a passion to try and be treated like another science, and it's still going through that process. And I think it's kind of been accepted now as like a science. I don't get involved with that too much. All I know is that like psychology is very much like an understanding of what we are in terms of like humans and how we tend to behave, and not just humans, but it's understanding all of that information. And psychology really tries to go into all the data all the time, and it's a very data heavy type of discipline, really. And so when I was going through university and masters, like we were always looking at the data from lots of populations and how things were working, and look at the trends in the data as well and how to interpret that. But when you run your ads on places like YouTube, you tend to get loads of data that comes in straight away, and Google will give you the information that you're looking for when you actually go through that kind of the advertising. So it'll give you the trends and say, funnily enough, the people that tend to be buying from you also have an affinity with, and they'll give you these categories that you can advertise to as well. And then you can mix them as well. So you can do keywords, you can do custom affinity audiences. There's so much stuff you can do, but it's all the data that comes in that's kind of like, it guides us on where we go next. And we don't tend to go with gut so much. We go with gut to begin with and kind of start there, but we let the data decide. We try and let the science guide the art, so to speak, if that makes sense.
That's interesting way of thinking about it. Well, thanks for hanging out.
No, of course.
Thanks for watching. Hope that was educational, informational, and interesting. And we know who you are, what you're going to do next. And no, we don't. Maybe he does.
I do, yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks very much.
See you later.
Okay, so hopefully you found that interview really useful and you can start to see how to start using YouTube advertising to turn a profit in your business. This is the part where I always ask for your comments. So please look below, leave your comments, positive, negative, any suggestions, any questions you might have, please leave them below and myself and the team will come back to you as soon as we can. And likewise, if you haven't done so yet already and you want to get more videos just like this one, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the button over here somewhere and that will subscribe you to the channel, and you'll get access to all the new videos that we release. Alrighty, speak to you very soon. Thanks.